All right, so good afternoon. This is Drew Erickson back talking about Money Not Math with Scott Fricke, owner of multiple businesses, but I think the focal point today will be the Robinhood, what is it? Robinhood Business Services.
Yep.
Okay, that's a tongue twister for me for some reason. Anyways, so like always, my goal in today is to provide you value, so hopefully you get some of that today. I think you will. Scott's a entrepreneur with multiple businesses and a lot of experiences, so hopefully you enjoy the conversation. And Scott, I really appreciate your time, so thanks for coming in.
Sure.
Before we get into the nitty gritty, like always, if you don't mind, would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Hey, I'm Scott. I've been in Thief River Falls for probably going on 8 years or so. Had a background in undergraduate degrees in engineering and such. Did engineering and the corporate world for a number of years. And then got into this credit card processing, point of sale systems and such, probably 5 years or so ago. But I'm married to my second wife at this point in time. I've got 2 kids and she's got 2. Her 2 are here in Thief River. Mine are down in Minneapolis. Like to hang out around town, doing the golf league in the summer and the curling in the winter. And with a couple businesses, it keeps me pretty busy.
Absolutely, I can imagine. So for anyone who isn't from Thief River Falls or never lived here, pretty much the primary thing that anyone does in the summer from a business standpoint is you're golfing on Wednesdays a lot of times.
Wednesday golf.
And then during the winter, I just picked up curling, which is a blast.
Wednesday
fun
curling.
to see you out there. Yeah. So you said it a little bit, but your Robinhood Business Services, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what
and what it is and what it does?
Yeah,
for sure. So Robinhood Business Services, I maybe even need to step back a little bit, but it's purposely kind of a vague title because what I was primarily doing was credit card processing for merchants. So any merchant who takes credit cards, or whenever somebody gives them the card and they swipe it through whatever they swipe it through or insert it or key it in or whatever, that gets processed somewhere and somebody makes money off of that. So the thing is, if somebody makes money off of it, why shouldn't it be me, right? So I kind of got into the business with the credit card processing and realizing that nearly every merchant out there is doing some credit card processing. Often they were paying more than they needed to, and I could kind of step in and say, hey, I can save you some money. I can get a little bit of that, and then that just sets up a residual and kind of a symbiotic relationship between me and the merchant as well. So I'm kind of helping them with that piece of the technology. They're saving money from what was going on before because the card processing is actually a really complicated pricing structure. So it's really easy for a merchant not to understand what they're paying for and be paying too much. So by being local and working with local merchants, then I'm able to kind of build that relationship. They're getting a good deal. I'm getting a piece of that residual income, which means that now I've got an incentive to keep them happy, right? They have to keep them happy in processing so that I keep making money. And so that's really the core of Robinhood Business Services. But the natural extension to that is the systems that actually do the processing. So that would be what you'd call a point of sale system, okay. POS. Most small merchants just use a cash register, but then they have a little side terminal that does their credit card processing, or Absolutely. Those little things that stick on your phone or Bluetooth with your phone. Those are all mechanisms to read that card or the chip, or it used to be just the magnetic strip. Now it's the chip from the card. So that equipment that reads that was kind of part of that card processing. As you get more and more sophisticated on those lines, now we're talking, full point of sale systems where you've actually got your full menu in there. And, if you're a restaurant, that makes sense. But, even like a hardware store has a menu, right? They have all their items that they have for sale and the prices, and those are all in the system. So the advantage to a full point of sale system is now that you don't just have your card processing in there, but you can get reports out of the system that have all your cash flow, your cash, your checks, and your credit cards all in one place. Now you can actually get reports about that. So it's kind of a natural progression. And my whole goal with the Robinhood Business Services, at this point in time is just to make sure, on my website, I even have cash registers, right? So to be able to walk into that merchant and present myself to the merchant and be able to bring the solution to the table that fits that merchant's need. Maybe they just need a new register. Maybe they're working on their card processing, maybe the terminal they've got right now, and they just need it finessed from a cost standpoint, or maybe they need a whole new system. And to be able to run that gamut and just be a one-stop shop for now what we're talking about, business services. The other piece that I'll add to that is that nowadays, it used to be that everything you plug it into a phone line and run over the phone line, but now everything's networked. It's
dial-up, the old dial-up days.
The old dial-up days.
Yep.
Everything's networked at this point in time. So completely unintentionally now, I've become pretty knowledgeable about network systems, because when one of these systems doesn't work, the most common reason that it's not working is something in the network. It's
the Wi-Fi connection or something like that.
The connections dropped is the most common problem. Now, why do connections drop? So then that means that you're tracking these internet cables back, and you're learning about routers and switches and why this stuff doesn't work and things like that. So that's kind of the natural progression. I'm maybe at some point in time we'll start offering services from a network, because I digress a little bit, because this is a business opportunity that's out there. Maybe I don't want to tell anybody. But the local internet providers, right? You buy internet connection and then it's not working, and you call them up and they're like, well, we got it to your door. We tested, we can look at it, and you got connection. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And whereas the problem most often is then, the modem or the router or the switch or something stopped working, something came unplugged, but who's going to come into your business and help you figure that out? Now, some merchants are really smart about this stuff, but I'll tell you, most of them are focused on running their business and have no interest at all
Absolutely.
in fixing their network. And these things turn into spaghetti networks over years. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for the small businesses, but that's maybe the next phase.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, so long answer, but that's Robinhood Business Services.
Yeah, that's helpful though. So I always like to say the smarter the technology, the dumber the problems. So it's kind of funny how that works. I think no matter what the business is, almost every business owner, like you said, their focus is that business. They don't want to deal with all the extra stuff. Yep. So it's always interesting for me to hear someone like yourself. You have your business that you're already really busy with, and you're already thinking about what's the next step to either evolve or grow. But taking it back to what you are already doing with the Robinhood Business Services. Yep. So would you say the value that you provide your clients is more price-based, convenience-based, value-based from you're providing better equipment, or is it all of those kind of equally? I mean, is that a fair question to ask?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the answer is, in most instances, I can present myself as the low-cost provider. Okay. Now, anybody who knows business knows that that's not a defensible position in and of itself. It's certainly advantageous, but it's not defensible in and of itself. So the thing is, though, that I can often provide a lower cost solution to them with a higher level of service. Most of my clients are within driving distance of me now. So if they call me up, they got a problem. If I can't get it fixed over the phone, maybe I get somebody from these companies that I basically broker processing. I can get a technician at one of the processing or equipment providers to help out. If we really can't solve it, I can be out there usually within a couple hours, and it's amazing, what eyes on can do, right? And ultimately, when it's usually not the equipment itself, but something in their shop that's gone wrong, being on site usually helps. So most of the services in this industry right now are sold over the phone. Somebody calls them up, says, hey, you need this. They say, okay, or they go to the internet and they buy it, and then they get the equipment or something in the mail and they plug it in, and then they've got some 800 number that they call, and there's a phone tree, and the merchant, I'm not really technically smart about this stuff, and they tell me to check my switch, and I don't know what the heck they're talking about. So it really helps to have when my merchants call, I answer the phone.
Yeah, hands-on help.
And I know, because I've been there at their business, I know what their business looks like. So it gives me a little bit of advantage. I'd be like, hey, Kelly, you've got a switch underneath your counter behind your cash drawer. So pull that cash drawer out and just unplug that switch and plug it back in. It's a little black box, right? Mm-hmm. Or it's white, right? Whatever color, because I've been there, I know what that looks like.
Absolutely.
So it really helps both from the phone support, but then I can be there. So, in that way, and that's why this business has been really successful over the last 5 or 6 years, because that's really a magical combination.
Absolutely.
Where I can actually give them a better solution at a lower cost.
So lowering costs, increasing quality, and hands-on support. That sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah. It's really a no-brainer for most people. Now, some people out there, there's some people like me out there, and some merchants are like, no, I'm good. I got my person there. They take great care of me. Fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. That's the best I can hope for you.
Absolutely.
Right. But in most instances, there is some sort of opportunity on the table. I can usually at least squeeze the cost a little bit, but there's almost always an opportunity on this level of service.
Interesting. So is there an ideal, of course, all your clients are business owners, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Is there an ideal business size or business type that you would say is your ideal client that you can provide the most value to?
Yeah. Well, yes. Ultimately, the businesses that are owned by individuals are a lot easier for me to work with than, say, corporations owned by shareholders. Mm-hmm. And even when you start to get multiple owners, it gets hard, as we know sometimes. But that also kind of determines the size as well. I mean, for a big corporation, a lot of times, if that big corporation's processing cards, they've got extensive amounts of equipment, they've got dedicated people who do this. That service aspect isn't quite the same as that sole proprietor, store owner who doesn't know technology, right? So maybe the right way to say it is at the point where that business crosses the line and they actually into the point where they have their own tech support.
They afford to pay someone internally.
Right. They're somebody's on staff to do this stuff. All right, probably not my client. And also the fact that when you start getting that big, they squeeze the margins on things so much that there's probably not a lot of room for me to save money for them either.
That makes sense.
But, to my advantage, we're out here in relatively rural northern Minnesota.
Yep.
Most of the businesses around here are not the franchise extensive organizations. They're little mom and pop shops.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. So you've mentioned location a couple of times. For anyone who doesn't know, we both live in Thief River Falls, Minnesota, which is about 50 miles east of the North Dakota border and 60 miles south of the Canadian border. Is that relatively close, I think? Geography is not my strong suit. But with that in mind, from a location standpoint, is there a target market there where you don't go too far, or what does that look like from a if you were to pinpoint a map, how far do you really travel to service clients, or are you trying to travel? Because I'm sure it's not advantageous for you to drive to
that's
South Dakota.
Right. Within a couple hours of Thief River Falls is generally where I work. Although I had an inquiry from Idaho the other day.
Really?
Can you help me out? And the answer is absolutely, I can help you out. Now, I'm not going to be able to provide on-site support the way that I do for most of my clientele, but that doesn't mean I can't answer your questions and maybe find you a great solution. It turns out that they were a CBD shop, and the right answer for CBD right now is none of our processing is really that good. I don't know, should I say it? I don't Square, you guys, for CBD shops, Square, you kind of run under the radar because the banks don't touch CBD.
Okay.
So with Square, you get sucked into a big enough pool that nobody really notices. But with any of the individual processing that I'm brokering, we tried to do the a racquetball here club in town, and you pop onto their website and it says we sell CBD. Well, now you're not getting any processing.
That's interesting because CBD is technically legal. So
technically, right? We know it's
just too early.
It's just you're in the early days. They tied hemp to cannabis, and technically, can the banks really process it or not?
Yeah.
And none of the banks want to take the risk.
On money, not math. We're not going to get into it.
We digress.
Yes,
we digress.
Most I would say it's very common.
Idaho, if it turned out to be a viable business, absolutely, I can manage it remotely. That's the way most people in this business really work.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I was just going to say, we're not going to get into it, but it's fair. Most people don't differentiate the difference between all these things.
Yeah.
But too early, that makes sense. Nothing illegal there. It's just
nothing.
So basically, what I just kind of read, because we kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there.
Yep.
You're willing to work with anyone, but if you want in person, like you're going to drive to their shop, it's got to be within a couple hours for it to be efficient for your business. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I'm out to the middle of North Dakota, Langdon, Devil's Lake.
It's a bit of a
I've got some, a couple hours out there from where we are now, and then the other direction too. I've got some stuff in Hibbing on the other side of the state of Minnesota, so that's probably about 3 hours, and then down towards the cities, St. Cloud and Minneapolis, which are about 5 hours.
Yeah. So actually, that's pretty much most of Minnesota that covers.
Yeah. I mean, it makes for a trip sometimes, but we were just doing an installation in Perham. The other day. So Perham is about 2.5, maybe about 2 hours.
Yeah, something like
south
that.
of us. Yeah.
Well, good. That gives a good idea for kind of what the net you're casting for people you're willing to, helping the most. So,
hey, shout out to Perham.
How and why did you start this business? Because I know you have a wide range of background. You have to go into your full background.
I won't go too much into that.
Out of curiosity, how did you start this business outside of just seeing the opportunity? I guess maybe that is the answer.
Yeah, that kind of is the answer. So, my background is engineering, and then I actually have a master's in management technology as well.
Okay. I didn't know that.
But
cool.
After I don't know, kind of weird to maybe say this, but I always thought that I was a great worker and did a great job, but I always kind of had an issue with corporations. Maybe I pushed too hard or whatever. But after being fired from 2 jobs within a 6-month period, I'd never been fired before in my life now too. So it was just this wake up call that to me, God was talking to me and saying, listen, you're on the wrong path.
Yeah.
Because that stuff just doesn't happen to me. But these things, so there are these changes in my life, and I'm left there sitting, oh God, now what do I do with my background and my experience? And that's I got onto the internet while I was here in Thief River Falls. I'm like, oh, what possible jobs are around here? And I stumbled across merchant services. And I had a little familiarity with what they did from some past experience, and I thought, that could be an opportunity. So I decided to try it for a week, and sold 8 accounts the first week, and like, wow, that was easy. And there's a lot of opportunity, right? Because it really is in so many senses, because you just go in and knock on the door and say, hey, do you need some help with this? And for a large part, people are like, yeah, I don't know what the heck's going on with that. It costed me a lot of money. Can you help me understand that? So that's kind of how I stumbled onto it. But I've run my own business in the past. It was really just kind of it was the right fit at the right time, and the heavens lit up and said, here's your opportunity. This is what you need to do.
Well, I think you're being humble, because I really want to, I think it's impressive that you took a negative situation and turned it into a positive one. You went from something that you obviously weren't necessarily enjoying or thriving at, and turned into a business that you're now 5+ years later really enjoying and looking at expansion.
I quite honestly, I couldn't be happier right now. But I had to hit bottom in my life. I mean, I'd been divorced, I'd been fired from a couple of jobs, I was drinking too much. I was a freaking mess at that point in my life. It's the god awful truth. But at that point, I found something that fit my skill set that I could just really do.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that because
Yeah.
I think it takes.
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing, but I was a mess.
Yeah. Well, I think it takes hard work and honesty to share the story, but
Yeah.
also fight through what you did as far as
Yeah.
your experiences. So from all these experiences, I'm sure you've learned a lot. But since this is money, not math, when you think about just financial things, what's maybe the best 1 or 2 financial lessons you've learned from your experiences, as vast as they are?
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. So, I'll throw in another piece of the past. At one point, I was working as an engineering manager, and I quit that job, and I went and I opened a real estate brokerage. And that was like about the stupidest thing I could do in the world, in retrospect, right? But I had this great vision for what I was going to do with it, and it didn't work out. But and luckily, I got out of that with my shorts on. But but that really adds perspective to kind of, it was also why I was so gun shy about trying something like that again. But the second time round is really, for anybody who's out there going to do a business, is just don't get ahead of yourself, right? The first time around, I overcommitted on my lease. I overcommitted on all sorts of things where I had these fixed payments, and I thought, oh well, the sales will come in and that should be easy, right? But I probably spent the same dollar 3 or 4 times. The same sales dollar that came in then was spent 3 or 4 times with commitments inside the business. So really, that's probably one of the things I took away from that experience and really applied to the other one. With this business and this time around, I mean, I completely bootstrapped it and just went out and started getting accounts and getting that cash flow coming in. I'll make a little sideline. I sold the first account, and then you got to wait a month for that first one to come in, and that first residual payment was 69 cents from the little cafe down in Winger.
So the biggest check you ever got?
That was my first check. It was deposited in my bank account, 69 cents. And I was super excited. I went to Carrie, my wife. I'm like, look at this, 69 cents. She's like, 69 cents. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what that is. We just got to multiply that, right? And 69 cents. Okay, once I learn how to sell it better, how to structure the deals better, right? There's money, but that 69 cents is going to keep coming in. And eventually that same little cafe, maybe I got them up to 15. They're maybe earning me $15 a month, right? Mm-hmm. But then that can go on for 5-6 years, especially if you service your clients. So anyway, I digress a little bit, but the real probably the thing that I would say is just don't let your commitments get ahead of your income, and watch it, because it's really nice to have extra income at the end of the month and say, oh, what am I going to do with that? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, God, there's not enough there. How am I going to make this work?
Absolutely.
That's a terrible feeling.
So correct me if I heard you wrong, but to repeat back what I think I heard is, 1, don't spend money before you make it. 2, don't spend more money than you make.
Right.
And 3, make your money work for you. So when you said the 69 cent rule, that's not a lot itself, but the first thing you thought about was, how can I multiply this?
Right. How can I multiply
and how can
that?
you get your money to work more for you? Is that that's what I heard, and hopefully that's accurate.
No, absolutely. It's just the reality is most of the money that comes in from the business right now goes back into the business, and I'm always leveraging that into new sorts of things. So I just spent $2,000 on equipment, which I'm going to give to customers for free, because I know that it's going to pay itself back before too long, and then it's just going to be I'm going to get all that back plus some. I know this because now you give somebody some free equipment, now you kind of reinforce that relationship, and they're going to stick with you. So reinvesting and making that money, turning that money around, and making it work for you. I mean, I guess the other little sideline, I know that you did the what was the book? Misfortune.
Oh, the book that I've been highlighting in my videos.
The book that you highlighted.
So anyone who doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm reading a book right now that I highlight once in a while. It's called Misfortune Isn't It the Time You Became Rich?
Right. Go back and read that book. So I was exposed that way back in the day when I was struggling with the real estate business. And but the thing in there is that one of the first things I did was and whatever I really leveraged things is the real estate. So I when I came to town, I bought a house, and then when I left that house, I didn't sell it. I rented it, and so now at this point, I've got, well, the house we live in plus 3 other properties in town. And the thing is then just recently I went off and refinanced those and took the cash out and then used it to remodel and some to invest in the business. And so there's a lot of leverage going on, but it's not like I'm going and borrowing money from other people. I'm borrowing it from myself.
Absolutely. And there's a big, and I won't go too deep into it right now, but there's a big difference between having debt and being in debt. So what he just explained is how he's leveraged his previous equities to advance his wealth rather than being too scared to use it and take advantage of opportunities.
And real estate, I would not advise real estate investments to make money, but it was a place to put some cash and then at least know that the rents coming in are going to pay for the mortgage plus a little bit. Don't expect to get rich fast off that. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So maybe this isn't. You just provide a lot of information, so I appreciate honestly those lessons. Don't apologize at all. I appreciate the lessons you provided and sharing. My next question is, if you could only give one piece of advice to those who are watching or listening to this conversation, what would it be? Because I know you just said about 4 or 5 things, but if you had to pick one, what would it be?
Right. You know, if I were to just if I just had to limit it to one piece of advice, the advice would probably be to be agile, to be open to opportunities, and to be ready to move on it. Because, you know, even now I don't have a really clear vision. I think that's one of the questions you're going to ask me and such too. But, you know, and from the start, it was, you know, get that next account, get that next account, get that next account. But then I saw opportunity. Okay, you know, the processor I'm working with, well, you know, maybe I can negotiate with other processors and get a bigger piece of this pie, or maybe there's other ways to structure this, and looking around and just finding opportunity as it came along, and then stepping into, you know, for instance, the point of sale systems. As opportunities presented itself, I've taken advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of the key. I mean, you can have your vision, you can kind of have an idea, but you don't want to be so set in your vision that you're missing the opportunities along the road.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect word, the word being agile. I think that's a fantastic word for taking advantage of opportunities, like you said, and being prepared for it, because we don't know when they're going to come.
Right.
The easiest example I like to use with people is when the stock market corrects itself, which it on average does every 8 years, even though it hasn't since 2007. Most of our society is in pain because they're locked into the market. But 5 to 10% of our society sees that as an opportunity, and they tremendously grow their wealth. So it's just an example of being agile and not having all your eggs stuck in one basket.
Right. And I think it's how you frame it and how you perceive the world around you too. Is it a challenge or is that an opportunity?
Very insightful. I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Did you read that from a book somewhere?
No, I don't know. I probably did somewhere. You know, steal
That's okay.
everything.
We'll just say quote Scott Fricke. So,
I'll take credit for it.
So based off all your experiences and where you are right now, what is your definition of being successful?
You know, I think, I don't know. I you know, there's always the financial way of defining success, and ultimately, you know, if as long as you can pay your bills, you're probably being pretty successful, because there's a lot of people who aren't even there, right? So, so you know, let's not do that. But I think ultimately, you know, if you can wake up in the morning excited about the day that you're going to take on, you know, and that's probably where I'm happiest right now, quite honestly, because you know, I don't have a boss to answer to or to try to explain these things to. You know, I see what I need to do, and then I go do it, and that's really liberating, and pretty fantastic. So, you know, I'm as successful as I want to be now. Is there more money on the table? Yeah, there's plenty more money out there. to be made. The question is too, at what point do you step back from that?
Yep.
I'm not ready to yet, but I guess success is up to you ultimately. But if you're, I don't know, God gives us a certain amount of time on this world. If you're not enjoying every day, then you need to rethink things a little bit, perhaps.
I like that. That's a good answer. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. And I think it's a good. I used this example before, and anyone who, hopefully people who watch more than one video, you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. I think it's interesting how neither right or wrong. Some people's definition is the finish line.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And some people's is the path to get there. And yours, I think, was a very good explanation of if you're enjoying the path to getting wherever you're going, right, that's success. Is that fair?
Yeah, I've got I can't quote it exactly, but I've got a quote that I kept on my desk for a while. Like I shuffled into a box and I just stumbled across it again. I'm going to pull it back out there, but it's something about, life's not a journey to arrive nicely finished at the finish line, but to be all wrecked up and slide in and saying something about, wow, what a ride.
That's awesome. Right? I like that. That's good.
Um,
So we've heard a lot about where you came from and where you're at right now. Where would you like to see your business or businesses in five years or so?
Right. And this gets back to, and maybe the best advice is to keep that vision kind of a little bit fuzzy too, because
agile.
Be agile. You never know what's going to pop up. But the credit card point of sale business has been growing. If we expand into other technology areas, because it really is kind of a technology business in
Absolutely.
a sense. Other technology areas might be, so whether we expand into other areas locally, we can expand geographically. I'm not sure that that's the best solution for me right now, but then again, if you find the right people in other markets to team with, that can change too. For the most part, I'd like to just see my business has been growing 20% probably a year over the past number of years. I'd like.
That's impressive.
It's been plateauing a little bit lately, and that makes me uncomfortable. But I know it's basically because I'm running out of time, so I've got to learn how to leverage my time better to keep it growing. But I'd like to see it keep growing. There's lots of opportunity to do that. We've got. I started by myself, working out of the house, and we've got an office now, and I've got 4 employees, and so that can grow, 5 years, we can probably have 20 employees or more, I would guess.
That's awesome.
And I guess my vision right now is still be regional, but if we're not just regional, then we have to find a way to duplicate what we've got going regionally in another region. I'm not sure exactly how I'd accomplish that.
And still be efficient, right?
And
it's still your name on the brand and everything.
Yeah. Well, and it's got to make money too, because if you're not making money, then what's the point? So there's got to be a way to leverage that. But, I think we grow into that point of sale systems more, because that kind of hits the higher end of the market that I wasn't hitting as much before. And so that's I think there's a lot of opportunity to just keep growing it that way. And as that business services, the target market being that independent business person with a storefront, and okay, they definitely need point of sale systems and card processing. Everybody has to take cards. What else do they need? And is there a way to expand the niche that way, as opposed to just doing, little card machines, for people in California who aren't going to appreciate my value the way that somebody in the next town over.
Yeah, that's fair. So for anyone that wants to learn more about you or get in contact with you, what's the best way to either find information or get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'll direct you to my website. I've dumped a lot of money into that. That's what I'm saying. I'm really happy with where the website's getting at this point in time. I have dumped a lot of time and money into it, getting it there. But it's www.yourhero.biz.
I like that. That is awesome. Yes.
So You know, Robin Hood Business Services, I picked that name on purpose too, because, you know, take from the rich and give to the needy. Do you know that one from Shrek? I take from the rich and give to the needy.
Yes.
I keep a wee percentage, but I'm not greedy.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
is that your slogan?
That's I don't know. It's probably copyrighted, so I can't
Trademark
put it up
style.
there. But it's kind of how I run the business, because I really do see myself as really, if I'm not out there helping merchants every day, then you know, you know, that's what lets you go to bed and sleep at night.
Yeah.
Is that you went out and actually made life better for somebody, made their business better, and made your own life better at the same time, put more money into the local economy. God, everything's good that way.
Absolutely.
So yourhero.biz, if you want more information, all my contact information is up there, and you can learn more about the business if you wish.
Perfect. And besides the website, I think you're on Facebook too. I think I've seen that, right?
Yeah. I've got a Robin Hood Business Services page on Facebook, I haven't been doing a whole lot of Twitter or Instagram yet, but I suppose I need to get there.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
So I really appreciate your time, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. I know I've learned a lot, and it's always insightful hearing from people with as much experience as you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, either about you personally or about your businesses, that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I'll throw in the one more thing is little story is just last April, because I'm doing this credit card business and I'm sending and receiving terminals and equipment all the time. So we're using the little packing shop in town. And the guy who ran it called me up and said, hey, listen, we're going to be closing it down. I'm not making any money. I thought, oh, darn it, that stinks, because now the next place would be Grand Forks to take, an hour away to take stuff. But
There's nowhere else in town that you could do that?
You can go to the post office.
Yeah, not really convenient.
Yeah, you can print a label out online and maybe drop it off at the UPS center between 4 and 6 p.m. Right?
Yeah, very convenient. Yeah.
Pretty limited options.
Sorry,
right?
I cut you off. Anyways,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was.
Yeah, so I hung up the phone, and about an hour later, I called him back, and I said, at that point, I had Lindsay working for me, and she wasn't busy 100% of the time. And I'm like, well, what if I just took that store and and we can make that our office, and we sit around all day, and if somebody comes in once in a while, they'll ship a package, then that would work out great. So I ended up buying that business. It's now the Easy Pack and Ship. It's in Thief River Falls. I don't have a website for that one yet, but that's coming. But amazing, this is again being agile and taking opportunity. I mean, it was a business that was not generating a whole lot of money, but the packages shipped is up about 3 times from
awesome.
In April when we took it over. We had an awesome December. And Lindsay's doing that just about full time at this point in time. And
awesome.
So the point being is that this is where there's opportunity. And so kind of keeping that business running on the side. But if you're in Thief River Falls and watching this, be sure to stop and ship a package with us too.
Yeah. So I just want to reemphasize how important what he just said was. He was agile, not only from being open-minded, but from a financial standpoint, he was in a position where he had no idea this call was going to come.
Yeah.
They called him. He goes, that sounds like a great plan, a great opportunity. I'm going to add that to my business. So I think that's just another great example. But for anyone wondering, where in Thief River Falls can you find Easy Pack and Ship?
Right across the street from where we are right now.
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, is across the China King and next to Styles Bamey or next to Northern State Bank.
Yeah,
and he always has the funny signs out front. So I know I get a chuckle and like to send him a text every once in a while with the new one that's up there. So is there anything else? I know I don't know if you
We covered a lot. How are we doing?
I think we're doing well. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please take a look. If you have, got value, please reach out. Let us know, if you have questions or what you found valuable about the conversation. If you want to learn more about Scott personally, you can go on his website like he highlighted, reach out to me. I'll give you his information. And of course, if you're a small business owner in the basically Minnesota area and looking for information on point of sales, give Scott a call or email him or whatever.
If you're not in this area and you want to do the same thing in your area, I'm happy to tell you all my secrets.
Awesome.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, Scott Fricke, everyone, he's a great guy. Great guy, always willing to help out. So I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.